A game jam is an event where participants try to make a video game from scratch. Depending on the format, participants might work independently or in teams. So being the amazing YouTuber that I am, I hosted one for the small prize of 20,000 Robux. Now, for those of you who are new here, there's a little inside joke on my channel that the answer to any unsolved puzzle involves a crow. Don't ask me how this happened. It's a long story. So that's the theme I decided on for the game jam. So for 2 weeks, my fans, worked diligently to create the best crow game of all time. Of course, with a contest like this, there needed to be some rules, so here are the ones I came up with. The game must be crow related. You are allowed to update an already existing game with new content, but only the new content will be counted towards your score. This one was specifically for this guy named Namai, who had made a crow game like 2 days before I announced the game jam, and I didn't want it to go to waste. The game does not have to be made in Roblox. The game must be safe for YouTube. Teams are allowed, but be sure to credit everyone involved. And then I decided to judge the games on the following 4 categories, which are each worth 10 points. Creativity, which is basically how good of an idea your game is. Execution, which is how well the game is made, like the quality of the game. Gameplay, which is like any game mechanics that you don't really find in other places. Or like game balancing, like if the game's too hard or too easy. Humor, well, I ended up changing this one to atmosphere, because some of these games are not comedies, I'll tell you that. So it's 2 weeks later, and I'm now gonna rank what everyone came up with from worst to best. Starting us off at last place, number 8 is Time Realm by Timed. This is a badge hunting game. The only issue is that it wasn't even made for the game jam. There was a crow right next to a pillar where you spawn in. Side note, I'm pretty sure this is actually a duck, not even a crow. And that was all it had related to the game jam, but the issue is that the crow was in the game before the game jam even started, so I couldn't give it any good points, even though this seems like a really good game, and you should definitely go play it. I also struggled really hard on this Obby on stream, but I somehow got it first try while recording, so that was cool. Overall, for Time Realm, I had to give it a 1 out of 10 for creativity. I mean, not only was this game not even made for the game jam, but the crow was literally just sitting there. For execution, I gave it the same score, mostly for the same reason. I gave the same score for gameplay because you literally just had to walk a few inches to touch it. For humor, on the other hand, I gave it a 1-0 because it gave a good laugh, and this whole thing is about having fun. So overall, the game scored 14 out of 40, making it the lowest scoring game in a game jam I've hosted ever, so far. Coming in at number 7, we have Save Crow of Courage from Russo Plassi by Eternal Sugar. This game is just a fun, short little obby where Russo from RB Battles is turned to evil for an undisclosed reason, and you have to save the other RB Battles judges and the crow from his grasp. The obby is short and poorly made, but that kinda adds to the charm of it. Also, for some reason, DJ Monopoly is just some random dude who's dead. This was the first game submitted, which was made within the hour I posted the announcement, which was like way before the deadline, so extra credit for that, I guess. For creativity, I ended up giving this one a 6 out of 10 because it was just kind of a regular obby that you'd probably find elsewhere on Roblox. For execution, it was given a 2 out of 10 since it was kind of poorly put together, and pretty much everything in the game was a free model. But it was still fun. I gave it a 5 out of 10 for gameplay. There's only so much you can do to make an obby more exciting, but it did have this section where you had to go and shoot zombies, which doesn't happen super often in obby games, so that was fun. It gets an 8.5 out of 10 for humor though, because this was genuinely really funny, and at the end, Russo is dead for some reason, because apparently JP started an arson fire, so, you know, that's pretty dope. Overall, game got a 21.5 out of 40, which is slightly above the middle point, so hats off to you, Eternal Sugar. For number 6, we have Sigma Crow Runaway, which is a mobile game developed by this guy, which seemed to be based on Slenderman, but instead of the slender fellow, it was the crow. And instead of paper, you collected cheese, which was kinda dope. The game's pretty cool, but for some reason I could only find one piece of cheese that would just hover in the air and make it uncollectible. I literally could not find any more cheese, even though there were supposed to be 5. The crow that chased you also played an audio of my crow tutorial video.
You're gonna wanna go to the bathroom.
Which was kind of funny. The game was bugged for me, I think, but it was pretty fun overall. For creativity, I give this one a 7 out of 10 because I'm pretty sure it's the only one not made in Roblox Studio. And I also didn't really expect anyone to make a full-on horror game for this, and it was a pretty cool idea. For execution, I gave it a 4 out of 10 because although the basic game worked, as far as I'm aware, there was no way to beat it. Not only did the cheese float away before I could get it, but I could only find one of them. Maybe it was like a skill issue or something, but I swear I looked everywhere and could not find it. For gameplay, I gave it a 3 out of 10 because it was super easy for the crow to catch up to you. It would basically never lose you, and it was faster than your walking speed, so you had to always be sprinting. But the issue with that is that the stamina regeneration took like ages, and it was basically impossible to survive for more than a few minutes. The only time I actually got a good look around was when the crow bugged and stopped killing me. But for atmosphere, I gave it an 8 out of 10 because it really pushed those early 2000s mobile game vibes, and it was kind of unsettling to play alone in the middle of the night. So overall, this game got a 22 out of 40, which is 0.5 points more than the last game. Alright, so that brings us on to number 5, which is Becoming Crow of Courage by Skate. This game was really fun, and you could tell there was a lot of effort put into it. It's basically a very long escape room with obby elements and crows. There's a lot of good things about this game, but there's also some parts that I wasn't too sure about when playing, which I will talk more about in a second. For creativity, this game scored a very well-deserved 9 out of 10. Not only was the game pretty fun to figure out with my chat, but there was also hidden lore about crows and pigeons turning evil. I don't really know why pigeons were involved, but it was cool nonetheless. My favorite part of the game was this little room that had a bunch of sub-rooms containing their own code. Every room was fun to solve, except for the first and last one, but I'll get to that in a second. But I really liked how each room had its own self-contained puzzle. It was very good. Now, on to the bad stuff. Unfortunately for execution, I had to give this game a 3 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, it's still super fun to play, and I would suggest you go play it right now. But some of the riddles were way overly convoluted. The riddle for the number 8 was confusing because what does it mean by I don't touch the ground or whatever it said? I still don't fully understand this one about Rome either, but apparently the answer is 1. Then there was this room that had glass test tubes. Apparently you were supposed to multiply the amounts by some number or something, but it's not really clear in any way, and it doesn't really help that each tube looks like it's separated into 4 parts, which it's not supposed to be, but it threw me off by a lot. Then there was this riddle that was like, half a decade I am not, which you would assume it means the answer isn't 5. But then it says, fingers on one hand I've got, so it has to be 5 unless it's talking about Gravity Falls or an animal. Sorry about that rant. Poorly written riddles really pissed me off. That's not to say all the puzzles were bad though. There were still some really good ones, like in any of the other rooms, or the simple but good riddle that actually makes sense, or the fact that one of the riddles was Caesar shifted and you had to decode it to get the actual riddle to begin with. Anyways, I gave it a 6 for gameplay because it was mostly just walking around and finding things, but there was an obby part that was really fun, but it was ruined by this impossible wraparound that I died so many times on. Also, just throwing this out there, but it was kind of hard to navigate the correct path for the obby at a certain part, but it's just a small grievance. For atmosphere, I had to give this one only a 5 out of 10, because unfortunately, it felt like the game couldn't decide whether it wanted to be funny or terrifying. There was this annoying song playing in the background the whole time, which kind of gave off an eerie vibe, like Asgore's house in Undertale, but I just couldn't handle the lyrics, bro. They were so stupid, and it literally never ended. There were these unanchored water things near the end too, and the pigeon at the end was supposed to be twerking. But meanwhile, there's all this terrifying lore about the crows turning evil and stuff, and I'm pretty sure at some point there was also like a dead body too. But yeah, it just felt like the game couldn't really decide what it wanted to be. In total, this game got 23 out of 40. I'd say this is the game that separates the mid games from the truly amazing ones. Every game after this, also partially including this one, is expertly crafted and deserves a lot of respect. This next game is Crow of Courage Simulator at number 4 by Santa213 Roblox. This was pretty much a basic simulator game, but it was crow themed, and some of these crows were really funny. The reason this didn't rank higher was because it used a free simulator template, I'm pretty sure. It also had some secrets, like if you go up to this door and say knock knock, it'll open to reveal a cool little room. There's also this button behind a leaderboard that teleports you to a short obby with a secret zone at the end, so that's pretty cool. For creativity, I ended up giving this game a 6 out of 10 because it was just a basic simulator, but it got more than half points because of the hidden secrets. For execution, I gave it a 4 out of 10 because it was made using a simulator template, which technically wasn't against the rules, but isn't as high effort as some of these other games people made. I also gave it a 4 for gameplay, mainly because it didn't really add anything new to the simulator genre, and it's basically just a reskinned pet simulator. I also had a minor issue, which was that the only point in buying new zones were for eggs since all the coins were worth the same amount, but that's not a super big deal. For atmosphere, I gave it a 10 because this game was really funny and I especially liked the little secret room that had a gold complex action figure. I should low-key make those in real life. That brings this game's total up to 24 out of 40. We are now at the top 3 games. I'd honestly go as far as to call these last 3 games true masterpieces, and the creators deserve the highest of praise. They really went all out for these ones, and they were all very fun to play and to rank, so huge shout out to them. Starting off at number 3, we have Cart Ride into 13 Courageous Crows by Garf, aka ETG founder. Honestly, when I first joined, I was not expecting this game to be good. I mean, it literally just looks like a regular cart ride game, but as I played, I started finding things. This game had not 1, not 2, but 9 whole secret badges. We spent a ton of time finding them, and it was really fun. Apparently, there's also a new secret out that I'll be streaming soon, but for now, I highly encourage you to join the game and find them on your own, because these are some really well-hidden secrets that are probably honestly on par with some of the RV battle secrets. For creativity, I give this one a 10 out of 10 because all the secrets were very unique and well hidden. For execution, it gets a 7.5 out of 10. It gets lowered just a little bit because of a bug during one of the secret badges that caused animations to become broken, but it was eventually fixed. It gets a 9 out of 10 for gameplay. The only thing I can think of that would have made it better would be if the cart ride itself was actually possible. There's actually a button at the bottom of the map to completely skip the cart ride, since even the creator himself thinks it's basically impossible. It gets a 7 out of 10 for atmosphere. To be fair, that's mostly because this is a cart ride game, and there's not really much you can do for it in that category. Which means this game's total is 33.5 out of 40, which is very close to the number 2 game, but just falls slightly short. Speaking of the number 2 game, it is Obby for Crow of Courage by Namai. This was probably the most anticipated game of the Game Jam because Namai had already made Obby for Crow of Courage, but this added a ton of new content for the Game Jam, and he kept teasing it in my stream chat and in the Discord. He added like 150% more content, which included like a whole new zone and even more secrets. This game got a 10 out of 10 for creativity because the secrets were like super intuitive. Like seriously, this dude is a master at hiding secrets. One of them involved typing out seemingly random words on your keyboard and seeing what they spelled. I don't even know like how to explain it, but like it was like the most mind-blowing thing I've seen on Roblox in a long time. This game got an 8 out of 10 for execution because although it was a very fun obby, a few of the parts were very hard and needed to be nerfed a bit. It got a 7 out of 10 for gameplay. basically for the same reason. It did have a cool boss at the end though, which gave it some extra points in the gameplay category though. I did give it a 9 out of 10 for atmosphere, because the places you go in the obby kind of imply lore, which I very much like. There's a crow temple, and the boss at the end chants the thing from Squirrel Stapler. Okay, so I'm here editing, and I was trying to get the sound from Squirrel Stapler, but the video I was trying to download kept getting corrupted, which is kind of ominous. So yeah, I'm just gonna let it be for now. It's like 5 in the morning too, by the way, and I haven't slept, so it's like even more creepy. Implying that whatever chases you at the end is some sort of deity, which is kind of terrifying. I wish I had more footage from the Nightmare Realm, but there's no way to replay it as far as I can tell, so unfortunately you don't get to see it unless you play it yourself, which I would highly encourage. Overall, this game got a 34 out of 40, which brings us on to our last game. In first place is the winner of the Game Jam, Battle for Hood of Crows by Slim. This game was amazing. I did not expect anyone to cook this much at all. This game is truly fire, and I urge you to go play it for yourself right now, because it is truly peak content. You basically have to go through several trials after failing to steal the Hood of Crows. There's a trial of intelligence, which is a fairly simple puzzle that involves the rainbow, that I was very slow to solve because I kept miscounting. Then there's a trial of endurance, which is an obby, that I think is supposed to be hard, but I beat it really easily. And finally, there's a trial of strength, where you have to push a ball into a hole. Then you finally win. But that's not all. There's also some secrets to uncover, which were actually pretty easy and only took a few minutes, so you could probably do them yourself if you wanted. This one got an easy 10 out of 10 in the creativity department, because everything in this game is completely original and seems like it had a lot of effort put into it. It also got a 10 out of 10 in execution. I mean, there's not really much to say. As far as I can tell, there weren't any major bugs, and everything was executed almost to perfection. Now, where this game scores the lowest is the gameplay at 8 out of 10. Everything was fine up until the strength trial, where I failed so many times. Maybe it was just because I was tired, or maybe it was a genuine skill issue, but I tried so hard and I could not beat this part. I think only like 2 people beat it before it was nerfed several times. The worst part is that the game didn't save your progress, so every time the servers got reset, you had to start all over, and this happened a couple of times. That's the only major problem I had with this game, though, because the atmosphere scored a perfect 10 out of 10 points. The game blends classic Roblox with more modern stuff very well. And it really gives off the specific vibe, which is exactly what I'm looking for while scoring for this category. All these things combined is why this game's got a total score of 38 out of 40 and is the winner of the Game Jam. I do have a surprise though. Everyone in this Game Jam did so well that third place is going to get 5,000 Robux and second place will get 10,000 Robux. I really did like all these games, and I will be linking them all in the description of this video so you can play them if you want. I put a lot of effort into this video, so pretty please subscribe, it would mean a lot to me. I've got a membership too if you want to buy that. Just saying. Thank you so much for watching. If you don't want to miss any more events like this, join my Discord, because that's where I usually ping everyone about this. The link's just in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.